Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be discussing the tropics in a somewhat brief video. Alright, now let's start off with what's been going on in the past for the last few months. So, we've had more activity in the Eastern Pacific due to training waves and a stuck pattern that just had these tropical waves coming off Central America and forming into some tropical systems in the Eastern Pacific. The Western Pacific has been quiet, then has been a little bit active, and then we've had some storms in the North Indian Ocean and 1S in the Southern Indian Ocean, near Australia and just southwest of Indonesia. Alright, now the Atlantic has been quiet due to suppressing Saharan dust, meaning it's been very dry, so hurricanes were not able to develop. The tropical waves coming off of Africa quickly dissipated. But now hurricane season is picking up. So what is going on? What has gone on? So we've had tropical storms Alex, Bonnie, and Colin. And you could see in yellow they were tropical storms, and you could really see the longer track of Alex, which was Agatha, in the Eastern Pacific, and then Bonnie, which kept its name because it kept its low pressure and actually became the first major hurricane of the season in the Eastern Pacific. It was a potential tropical cyclone for a while before crossing over to the Eastern Pacific and making landfall in Nicaragua as a tropical storm. It was near the border with Costa Rica, however. Now, looking at the Eastern Pacific names, we've had Category 2 Agatha, Category 1 Blas, Tropical Storm Celia, the Category 3 Bonnie, which crossed over to the Eastern Pacific, and of course Agatha, which crossed over into the Atlantic and became Alex as a tropical storm later down the line, as I previously mentioned, and then Darby, which was a major hurricane Category 4, Hurricane Estelle, Hurricane Frank. Georgette was around at the same time as Frank as a tropical storm, then Hurricane Howard, of course, and Yvette, which were both recent. Yvette was a tropical storm. Now let's move on to the National Hurricane Center. We had Invest 99L form into potential tropical cyclone 4. At first, it wasn't even marked by the National Hurricane Center, but eventually it went from 1010 to 6060, I believe, all the way to 8080 now. And it will probably become a tropical cyclone. There is still a chance that it won't, however, it is very likely that it will, as the NHC does have an 80% chance as well. The next name on the list would be Danielle, followed by Earl. We could be seeing Earl soon after Danielle, relatively, but yeah, nothing else going on in the Atlantic as of now. The Eastern Pacific, quiet. And the Central Pacific, quiet of course, as it should be. Even when the Eastern Pacific is active, we still see this more quiet than closer to Mexico. Currently we have another tropical system in the Bay of Bengal, Tropical Cyclone 04B, and that is expected to move inland into India. We also have several invests, or at least we used to, in the Western Pacific, but now the Joint Typhoon Warning Center just has 93W marked as a low chance of forming. Now looking at tropical tidbits, current storms, potential tropical cyclone 4 has really gotten its act together today. A lot of its convection really blowing up. Those last few frames, it might be dying off a little bit, but it will likely resurge soon and may become a tropical cyclone soon. Intensity guidance expected to grow in intensity before landfall, probably making landfall tomorrow, and then really going to its end of its life there as a tropical system. The NHC cone has it becoming a tropical storm by tomorrow morning, and then there are tropical storm warnings for Texas and Mexico. That is the northern coast of Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico, and the southern coast of Texas near Brownsville. Alright, here's its current location as a low pressure, and model guidance shows it moving to make landfall in Mexico. However, it could move into Texas or move west beyond that, bringing much needed moisture to Texas. It is good to mention that we're going to be having a lot of moisture moving into Texas and other regions stricken with drought. However, there could be some flash flooding coming up in the immediate future. That will be in southern Arizona and New Mexico. Alright, as you can see, there are more models for 04L's movements. Now, looking at 04B, Tropical Cyclone 04B, it still has not received a name, and it is now inland, far inland. And you can see that it is expected to die off very soon, due to land interaction, of course, and then the GFS takes it very far. But yeah, a very strong, well, not very strong, but relatively strong system as a tropical storm. Now, going into Invest 93W, we have not really any organized convection. There was a little bit to the southwest. However, it does not look like it is any sort of tropical cyclone as of now. Looking at 93W, we see it is near the Philippines and is going to scrape by the northern part of Luzon before going on to potentially impact Taiwan, and it has a low chance of forming. But yeah, nothing else really going on. Now we can end off the video by just looking at forecast models. We'll start off with the Western Pacific. We have some waves, and they could develop into something small, but nothing too big as of now. And then the GFS is still sticking onto this typhoon, trying to barrel its way towards Japan and Tokyo. Now looking at the European for the Western Pacific, doesn't go as far out, but it shows a potential tropical cyclone for northern Luzon and potentially moving onto its way to impact Taiwan potentially later. Now let's look at the Central Pacific. Just general activity in the equatorial regions. The GFS shows much of the same, with activity really stopping in the Eastern Pacific, or halting, I should say, and then really picking up for the Atlantic. We have had an active Eastern Pacific, but the Atlantic is expected to pick up, as we already have even a system now that will likely develop. We see 04L make its way towards landfall with Texas. Not Texas, Mexico, but we don't really have any other systems marked for the Eastern Pacific, as there's nothing really even showing up for the next 300 hours plus, all the way going into early September, around the 4th, and yeah, nothing really expected to form. The European, you could see 04L, but yeah, nothing really expected to form. Alright, now ending off with the North Atlantic, first I have to mention that it is going to be cooler in the southern regions of the United States, in the deep south, going into Texas, and it's going to be cooler in the southwest still, particularly Arizona and Arizona and New Mexico, from the monsoonal moisture and raininess, storminess, and Canada will be warmer than average. Now let's look at the upcoming systems to come. The European shows a potential tropical cyclone forming in the MDR region, which shows confidence, and maybe the NHC will mark this very soon, as even the European model is showing this forming. Let's look at the GFS and see if it forms it, and it does. And then this system degenerates into a wave, or a weak depression, before moving on to impact the eastern United States, scraping by the East Coast. This is very far out, and it is very uncertain what will happen if this wave does form. And it's not even certain if it will form, definitely. However, it is not out of the question where if it will be a fish storm or not. So we'll be having to watch that, and then you see several waves beyond that, with those low pressures potentially forming, and then just general Gulf of Mexico moisture. However, some storms popping up every so often want to strike Florida. I would not take that very seriously. And then, yeah, so we will be watching all of these systems. And we do see that Gulf of Mexico moisture really going into the Gulf states. So yeah, we will have more updates to come on whether or not anything will form, if Danielle does form, or a tropical depression from potential tropical cyclone or PTC 04L. We will have an update. Alright, that will do it for today. Thank you for watching.